Professor Palace here with the weekly wrap-up for Week 3 in NTD 420. Let's take a look at our Week 3 class poll or survey. This week, we were interested in learning who in the class knows someone who has type 2 diabetes. 53% of the students in this class personally know someone who has type 2 diabetes. 47% of the students enrolled in this class do not personally know someone who has type 2 diabetes. This is interesting when you look at the history and you see the increased prevalence of type 2 diabetes in our society today in America. And when you look at that and you compare it with the increases in obesity today, you can see that there's a connection in that they're both increasing. There are also connections that have been made between the occurrence of type 2 diabetes and the existence of obesity. This week, we had our first discussion board where you were interacting with your peers and making comments on their posts. It's important to remember that you will need to post 3 times at a minimum in the discussion boards. Your first post should be by 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday night, and your 2 peer responses are due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Make sure that you include references and cite your references in APA style. There are some model discussions that I posted out there through an announcement, so I would take a look at those. When you're writing a response to someone, it's interesting if you can state that you either agree or disagree with something that the other student said, and then support that with a reference. What's next? Well, the big news is that this week we have quiz number 1. You have the entire week to take the quiz, but you only get 1 attempt, and it is a timed attempt. Quiz 1 will open on February 10th, and it must be completed by February 16th at 11:59 p.m. You only get 1 attempt, so you can't start it and stop and think you can log back in. It's 1 straight shot. This is worth 20 points and 10% of your class grade. There was a worksheet that I made available to you last week, which I am not grading, but that worksheet is a really good directional study tool to help you prepare to take this quiz. The format of the quiz will be multiple choice questions, true-false questions, matching questions, fill-in-the-blank questions, and several short answer questions. The best tool you can use to help prepare for the quiz is the worksheet that I just mentioned. However, on this slide, there's a bulleted list of some of the topics that will be included in the quiz. These PowerPoint slides for this weekly wrap-up are also available to you through D2L, separate from the recorded audio presentation. But just to sum it up, some of the big points to be aware of for the quiz are knowing how to calculate body mass index, understanding what a comorbidity is and how that relates to obesity, understanding that there is a relationship between insulin and cognition, recommendations that you might make to decrease a person's risk for metabolic diseases, understanding that there is a relationship between adipose tissue mass, that's body fat mass, body mass index, and whether or not a person is categorized as obese, overweight, normal weight, or underweight. Know the elements of the nutrition assessment. This is the A, B, C, D, and E. Also be able to identify an example for each one of those nutrition assessment elements. Understand what anthropometrics are, how you would define them, what data you would be collecting, and methods you might use if you were setting an anthropometric goal for someone. I reviewed that in the Week 2 wrap-up. Understand the relationship between metabolic syndrome, fat, and inflammation. Be able to define subcutaneous fat and collection methods you might use to assess level of subcutaneous fat. And finally, understand that there is a relationship between insulin, inflammation, and adipokines. I'll say it one more time. If you haven't already completed that worksheet, I would take the time to complete the worksheet before you attempt taking quiz 1. If you have any questions, please send me an email or give me a phone call. Let me know what your concerns are. And I have graded the a case study assignments that you submitted last week. Your grades will be released, and I will be releasing a short review of that assignment for you so you get a better picture of what we saw when we completed that assignment and hopefully what you learned when you completed that assignment. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great week.